Hi guys, my name is Alex Albers. We're here live at the studio. Today I have here with me Jason Merkel, and today we're going to talk about the new E-flite F-16 model that we have.
Yep.
So can you tell us all about it?
Yeah, so this is actually very, very exciting. A lot of guys know that we recently announced and released the 70mm Viper jet, and so that airplane we kind of say is the best first jet that there is for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. A great flying jet, smooth flying jet. It has AS3X and Safe Select, and then we wanted to follow that up with, and that is a scale model, by the way. Not everybody realizes that the Viper is a real aircraft. So it is a scale airplane, but at the same time, when people think scale, a lot of times they think something exactly like this. Right. So, I would say the F-16 is probably one of the most recognized, best-known scale subject matters in the jet world today, flown by many countries today. The Thunderbirds models, aircraft in particular, are flown in a lot of countries, which are represented by the flags on the side of the airplane. So it's actually a really, really great addition to the lineup because now we have a second scale model. I wouldn't necessarily say this is the best first jet for a lot of people. Right. It could be a first jet. We'll get into that in a little bit later. I'd still say the Viper is the best first jet for a lot of guys, and then this would be a great second jet, a great follow-up to that. So we'll get into some of those details as well. But again, I mentioned it's 70mm. Okay. It is the same power system from the Viper. So for those that have seen the video for the Viper and then even the quick look video that we posted for this, you'll see it has plenty of power. Takeoff, cool. Go straight up, no problem. And so it's got a 12-blade fan, which is in the world today of EDFs, electric ducted fans. Having a higher fan blade count usually results in a whooshier sound, a better sound. It sounds a lot more like a turbine engine, which I think is really, really cool. So, a lot of EDFs for a long time sounded like blow dryers in the air, and to be honest, they were kind of offensive. And admittedly, I flew some of them, and I didn't love the sound, but I loved the flight performance that we were getting. But now we're actually getting even better performance, better sound, a little bit more efficiency out of the power systems. Fans have been optimized and things like that. So we got 70mm fan, got the motor already factory installed in there, and the ESC is a 70 amp ESC, and they are 6S compatible. Okay. So that's one of the other things. A lot of 70mm airplanes, way back in the day, we flew them on 3-cell batteries. Then we flew them on 4-cell batteries, and now we've gone all the way to 6 cells, which is better for overall efficiency. You get more power output, and also still decent flight times as well.
Awesome. So you mentioned availables in Binafly Basic. What kind of technology do we have in here, though?
So in the Binafly Basic version, basically we have the power system installed that I just talked about. We've got all the digital metal geared servos installed, but we also then have the addition of a Spectrum AR636 receiver. Okay. And so that receiver has built in AS3X technology, which is 3-axis gyros to smooth things out. And then also in addition to that, we have our Safe Select technology. And the benefit of Safe Select technology, you don't have to use it. That's why it's called Select. Right. So you can have either, you can bind without Safe active at all, or if you bind with it active, you can have it on a switch so you can select it on and off at the flip of a switch, which I recommend for even experienced pilots. I know some guys are going to argue, oh, I don't need that electricery in my airplane. I'm a really good pilot. There's a lot of really good pilots here at Horizon Hobby. Ali Machinchi and David Payne and Dustin. These guys are some of the top jet pilots in the world, and they fly with Safe Select on. There's really no harm in having it on a switch. So, like let's say as an experienced pilot, you fly through the sun and you lose orientation. You flip the switch, the thing goes right back to level. Right. So if you want to hand it off to someone who maybe has less experience flying a jet or an aircraft in general, they can actually safely fly and successfully fly a lot of aircraft that are already up in the air. Maybe they can't take off and land with Safe Select active. And then for a less experienced pilot, Safe is great. Having it active for takeoff and landing, it keeps the wings level. That makes it really nice, especially if you're flying in a crosswind. And then you can kind of just use that to get a feel for the airplane in the air for your first couple of flights, then turn it on and off as you get more comfortable. So, for people moving up from beginner aircraft, a lot of our airplanes that have Safe in them have beginner mode, intermediate, experienced mode, and then when they move into an aircraft like this, the Safe is kind of like it's basically like a beginner mode. It's tuned a little bit differently, so you've got a little bit more aggressive bank and pitch angles, but with Safe Select active, you've got those pitch angle limits, you've got the bank angle limits, so you can't get upside down and crash, and then if you let go of the stick, it goes level. So again, for takeoff and landing, it's really nice. And I admit, I cheat sometimes, and it's really bad crosswind, and I'm like, well, it's really a lot of work for me to keep the ailerons and everything and keeping the plane level. So I just flip on Safe Select and land it. It's a lot easier. It makes me look like a lot better pilot.
That's awesome. What do we have for It's also available as in plug and play too, correct?
Exactly, yes. We have the version, the plug-and-play version also has the power system installed, all the digital metal geared servos installed. You do have to install your receiver. Right. And so that receiver has to be a minimum of a 5-channel receiver in the plug-and-play.
5-channel.
For the bind and fly version, you need a minimum of a 6-channel transmitter to be able to turn Safe Select on and off. Yeah, so in theory, you could probably fly with that 5-channel transmitter as well, but you really need the 6-channel transmitter to turn that on and off. And we also haven't talked about yet retractable landing gear. So that's what that extra channel is for. We got electric retracts factory installed with shock absorbing struts. So the Viper jet, for example, we put the beefy wire struts on them with the coils in them, and those are really simple, reliable, very durable. That's, again, another reason that's a better first jet. This does have shock absorbing gear, which is good because it does suck up a lot of bumps and things on rough surfaces, including grass. Yes, you can take off and land with.
So that's one of the questions that came up yesterday a lot.
Yeah.
Can it take off and land in short grass?
It can. It has the power to, which is really the most important thing. It needs to have the power to do that, but then the landing gear is durable enough. The retract units have metal trunnions. The shock absorbing gear picks up, again, the bumps and bruises. So there are a lot of places that you can fly this that you probably wouldn't be able to fly a similar sized jet that either has less power or less durable landing gear. So yeah, again, we got the electric retracts on there. So the plug and play version is available. The price difference is about $30. So for the bind and fly basic version, it's $299.99, about $300 US. Yeah. And the plug and play version is $269.99, so $270 US. And they will both be available at the same time.
Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about assembly. How does it come out of the box?
Yeah, so almost all the major components are already done for you. All the servos installed. The power system's already been installed at the factory and test runs, so the fan is smooth and everything works. It's pretty amazing to just plug a battery in and bind it and throttle it up, and the fan sounds amazing. And so you do have to do some minor assembly. You've got to put the wings on. Those go on with bolts. You do have to glue the tails on. That's really easy to do, though. And the nice thing is this is EPO foam, so you don't have to have special kind of glue. You don't have to have foam safe CA. You can use foam safe CA, but you can use regular CA or epoxy to assemble it. So assembly is very easy. I would say roughly an hour for faster guys, maybe up to upwards of 2 hours for guys that take a little more time. You do have to put some of the decals on. Most of the decals are already applied for you. One thing that we did leave out is we did not apply the number designator on the side of the airplane. We give you a decal sheet so you can put the number on that you want. So you can be number 1, you can be number 5 with it upside down, just like that solo guy has. And then you do have to put some stars on the tail. And so there's some little things, but it's very, very easy to put together overall. A lot easier than ducted fans were back in the day when you had to, balance the fan, install the fan, glue the whole thing together, hinge all the surfaces, so all that's done for you.
Awesome. So I've seen a lot of questions coming out on Facebook, so I'm looking at
okay.
Just to remind you guys, I'm not ignoring him, I'm just looking at my laptop because there's a lot of people commenting on it. I want to make sure I get to all the questions. So some of the questions are when it's going to be available. Again, we just talked about that. It's going to be available before Christmas.
So yes, we have talked about that a little bit last couple of days. It will be available before Christmas. The caveat is there's only a limited supply available. So these are trickling into our warehouses right now, and they will be shipping out around the end of next week. If you put your pre-order in today, you will likely get one, but they are selling out fast. We've been taking back orders or pre-orders technically since yesterday, and a lot of them are already spoken for. So at some point, we're going to run out, and we'll continue to take back orders past that point, but the sooner you get your pre-order in or your back order in, the more likely you are to get one. So again, if they ship around the end of next week or early the following week, they'll probably be in transit most of that week before Christmas, but a lot of guys then would have them probably the weekend before Christmas already in the air, I'm guessing. So
what about servos? Those digital metal geared?
Digital and metal geared. Awesome. Exactly. Yep. All the way around. We also have ball linkages, so a little bit more precise linkages as well. Very, very durable. That's the nice thing about metal geared servos is they're durable for handling. If you bump a surface, you won't strip the gears. That's kind of nice, and they're digital, so they're very precise.
Now the nose cone, is that removable?
Yeah, this is cool. I like this. So the nose of a lot of jets, it's relatively pointy, or in this case we've got pitot tube or antenna on the front, so you've got different options, but I like what they did here where the engineers chose to go with a magnetically secured nose cone. And the nice thing about this is if you do damage it, it's easy to replace. For transport, this makes the airplane, it doesn't seem like it, but quite a bit shorter and a lot less likely to break this off of the front of it. And so you can pull that off. I think a lot of people will transport it with the nose cone off, but will leave the wings on. And I like that because I think this size of EDF, in my mind, this 70mm size, there's a lot of other sizes of F-16s out there, and they're a lot bigger. So I can transport this very easily in the back seat of a car, just take the nose cone off in particular, and it fits back there no problem, and I don't have to take the wings off. And that I really, really like. And we've seen over the years a lot more guys talking about, hey man, I had to get rid of my full-size truck, I had to get rid of my full-size SUV, I've got something that's either more fuel efficient or just smaller, more practical, and so they've got less room to transport. This is the perfect size jet, in my opinion, for a lot of people.
Awesome. So let's talk about the flight performance over here a little bit. So especially compared with the Viper, how does it compare to that?
So again, the power system's the same. So the top speed, the thrust, very, very similar. Now the ducting is slightly different in this model versus that model, so that does have some effect on it. But if you watch our quick look video, you see the takeoff. It just takes off, goes straight up. Right. We've got enough power and authority, control authority to do Harrier, high alpha maneuvers, and then to push out a little bit. And so the top speed is probably well north of 100 miles per hour, and then it slows down into the high alpha stuff, and it can punch out, has enough thrust for that. So I think the performance is well balanced. It's very similar, maybe not quite on par with the full scale that has a whole lot of power. Right. The full scale aircraft being one of the fastest in the world, one of the most powerful in the world. So this aircraft is a very, very good emulation of that, though.
Kyle, do we have any questions from YouTube channel?
Yeah, a lot of people asking about why there's no full flying stab.
Okay, so a lot of people asking the question, why is there no full flying stab? And so we'll hit that head off. So basically, the full scale model, for those that don't know, the stabilizer is one large piece that rotates. And so that actually is, some people call it a stabilizer, some people call it full flying stab. And basically that is where the elevator control comes from. Some models also, they mix that in as tailerons. In order to keep the weight down, the complexity down, and the price down, we left that off of this model. So yes, some people argue that's not a scale, that's it's not great. Well, admittedly this is a model, so it's already not 100% scale because it has to be built a certain way to fly well. And so we did leave that feature off. And honestly, you're probably talking the difference of upwards of $30 to $50. And so for some people, they'll gladly pay a little bit less for that. And I know some people would say I'd gladly pay more for that. But again, we just don't have that on this model. A larger scale model we might use that on, but we don't have that on this particular model.
So I had a question from Jeremy. We were kind of talk about it, does he have SAFE and AS3X?
Yes. So the Bind and Fly Basic version, which comes with a Spectrum AR636 receiver, has AS3X and SAFE Select. The plug and play does not. So I would say the plug and play airplane, you can put in a receiver. Let's say you have an AS3X receiver or a non-AS3X receiver, no problem. But I suspect the vast majority of people are going to buy this with the receiver.
Another question is battery size, battery range specifically. So we're doing 32 to 4,000?
Official recommendation is that 6S, so 22.2 volt. You could probably use 3 cells in series of 6S, but a 6S 3200 battery is kind of the sweet spot. The nice thing about that battery is it pushes the CG back a little bit, so you can maybe high alpha a little bit better, a little bit easier. It makes it able to hold the nose up more on a landing approach and flare. And so then, a lot of guys will say, well, I want more flight time. No problem. You can stick up to a 4,000 in there. There is room in the battery compartment for that. We got a nice latch secured hatch here with quite a bit of room inside. So the official recommendation is 3,200 to 4,000 6S battery. Some guys might be able to squeeze like a 4,400 or 5,000 depending on the weight and the physical plan form of that battery. Right. It might be nose heavy, so that's why we wouldn't necessarily recommend it for everybody, but it could work with a bigger battery as well.
All right. Awesome. Kyle, I think you have another question popping up.
Yeah, what is the international availability?
Yes. So what we talked about for availability before was in the U.S. And so we have a question now, what is the availability in Europe in particular? And so in Europe, this is on the way to our warehouse there now. They will probably get them around Christmas. So unfortunately in Europe, they're not going to get probably into most people's hands before Christmas, but you got to get your pre-order in now if you want to get your hands on one as soon as possible. There is also a limited supply going there as well. And, in a lot of cases, new releases, most of the time we do sell out of them. So again, make sure you get that pre-order in on horizonhobby.com, towerhobbies.com, horizonhobby.eu, towerhobbies.eu. There's a lot of places you can do that also with your local retailer and also online, your favorite online retailer. And so I just very, very strongly recommend getting that pre-order in now so you can make sure you have one.
So there's a couple of guys mentioning if we can flip over the airplane just to see the bottom.
Sure. So I love, of course, the bottom. We've got the trim scheme emulated from the full scale. And so, you guys can see the plan form there and the trim scheme. It looks really sharp. So we've got the retracts there, and we've got the shock-absorbing struts. Not sure if you guys could see that very well there in the video, but yeah, there's the bottom side. So it looks quite scale. And I really, really, really like the trim scheme on this one because the visibility is good. And so, let me talk really quickly about a few other things that I've seen come up in discussion points. So we talked about this with the Viper. The Viper jet is an amazing airplane. And it was actually produced by a factory that we work very closely with. And they sold it under their brand for a while. And nobody really noticed it.
Right.
And we flew it and we're like, wow, this thing is amazing. And so let me clarify. Most aircraft that we design and develop, we literally design and develop it from the ground up. So if you look at our last couple of releases, I don't know, the Delta Ray 1, the UMX Cirrus, the Pitts biplane, we actually do the design work for a lot of these aircraft and development work in-house from the ground up. We come up with the idea, and roughly 2 years later, it does take that long to design and develop an airplane, we come out with the aircraft. Every once in a while, we come across an airplane, and we're like, wow, this is so good that we think with a couple of tweaks, we could actually put the E-flite brand name on it, put Horizon Hobbies support behind it, and it will be an even better product and better known and will sell better than anybody had ever known or sold before. So, for that reason, we took the Viper. We did put a trim scheme on it that we really liked. Of course, trim schemes are subjective, but we also then, flew the heck out of it to make sure the electronics, it worked well. The power system was very, very well suited.
Right.
We put AS3X in it and safe in it, which makes it an even better flying airplane and an easier flying airplane for more people. And so we did the same thing here. This was available, from that very close factory that we work with under their brand name in a gray scheme. Not a lot of people knew about it. And so, for that reason, yes, most people are seeing this for the first time, this 70mm F-16. Again, it's been available for a while in a gray trim scheme, which, again, trim schemes are subjective. The gray one, in my opinion, harder to see. I'm very, very biased toward the Thunderbird trim scheme. A lot of the guys in-house are, and I'll tell you in the market, I think most people really like the Thunderbird trim scheme. So, again, we took this airplane from that factory. We're not hiding that fact at all. Right. And we've put our trim scheme on it. We've put our seal of approval on it, and we are offering it under the E-flite brand, and we are offering it with Horizon Hobby backing and support and our marketing and our visibility that we're going to get a whole lot more people are going to know about and buy this airplane and fly this airplane than knew about it before because it's now under our brand. And so we're not taking credit for it. We're not saying we designed it. We are saying that we flew it and we are giving it our stamp of approval. And I think that means a lot because, we get samples from people all the time. They send us airplanes. They're like, yeah, this is the most amazing airplane. You need to put it under E-flite, and they don't make the cut. Right. And so if it is sold before and now we're selling it, it's even better than it was. So, I just want to make that point very clear, very transparent for everybody.
Awesome. So, Mark wants to see the hatch, if you can open up.
The hatch, yeah. So, admittedly, we stuck a different kind of battery in here just to keep the nose down. You guys can see with the hatch removed, there's quite a bit of room in the battery bay. Now, this one hasn't been flown just yet, and so we haven't put all the Velcro and everything in the right place, and also oriented the antennas. That's one thing I want to point out. The Viper jet, I noticed this, the orientation of antennas is important. So, the factory installed receiver is in there, but, we strongly recommend making sure you've got path diversity in your antenna placement, depending on the size and location of your battery and where you shove all your wires. It could block the antenna. So you got to make sure that, you got the kind of smaller, shorter antenna that's attached to the receiver here, and then you've got the longer, kind of leaky feeder antenna. I would strongly recommend, depending on where your final battery placement is and where you're going to run your wires, that you adjust the position of those antennas accordingly to make sure you've got the best path diversity possible. And so, again, the battery hatch is very, very convenient. It's large, it's easy to access, and we've got a nice latch here in the back. Very positive latching, and so boom, now that's not going anywhere.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Kyle, do we have any other questions from YouTube?
Length of runway that's needed for takeoff.
For takeoff and landing? Okay.
Well, that's, it's going to be dependent upon the surface of the runway. Let's say you have a paved runway, very, very smooth, and you punch it and you go. If you look in our quick look video, which is out there now, you'll see it's taken off in probably, 100 feet or less.
Right.
So I think it's probably less than 100 feet. It has so much power, it gets up and goes. Now, if you have a grass surface or a rougher surface, like a rock surface or a dirt surface, it might take more length of runway to get up to speed, to get off the ground. And I actually did see some people asking about hand launching it. I suspect with the landing gear retracted, and I think you can hold it pretty well. I think you could hand launch it. In fact, to be honest, it has so much power, I wouldn't be surprised if you can hold it by the nose, just punch it and let go. So you may not need any feet for takeoff. And you know what? I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll play with that a little bit and we'll try it out. And then if it works well, maybe we can do a video or we can follow up with some comments.
So speaking of video, we have we call it quick look video that we went out yesterday. We have another video coming up maybe next.
Yeah, so we're working on a full length feature video. The reason for that is the weather around here has not been terribly kind to us.
Has it?
think it's going to be a rough winter, but for that reason, we haven't gotten all the footage that we want. For example, we would really like to get some grass takeoffs and landings on film so we can show you guys, not just tell you guys that it can do it, but show you guys that it can do it.
Yep.
And then also we've got 6 of these ready to go, all numbered 1 through 6, and we're going to bind them all to one transmitter and fly them at the same time.
We'll see.
I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. We're not binding them to one transmitter, but we're going to try our darndest to get 6 of us out there
Fly in formation,
and trying to fly in formation.
Awesome.
It should be comical, if anything.
All right. So, Kyle, any other questions, or we're good?
Explain the upside down 5.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah. So we put that in the quick look video intentionally. If you guys go to the full scale and you look at that, they're all numbered 1 through 6, and 5 is upside down on the full scale. And the reason for that is because that guy flies most of the flight upside down. So I guess they wanted you to know that it was the number 5, even when he's upside down. So yeah, check out full scale videos of the full scale flying. And if you've seen him fly in person, or if you've seen him just sitting on the tarmac in person, you'll see the 5 is upside down intentionally.
All right, so I see another question about who's the customer. Who we talked about it earlier in the video.
Yes.
Who can fly it? So
who can fly this? If you've never flown a radio-controlled aircraft before, you cannot fly this. This is not for you. Even with Safe Select technology, let's be honest. What's going to happen is this video is going to get shared, and a bunch of people are going to say, "Can this be my first airplane?" No, this cannot be your first airplane. It can, however, be one of your first jets. Again, I talked earlier in the video about the Viper jet, the E-flite Viper 70mm EDF being the best first jet. We still believe that. The plan form of that aircraft, the way it handles, the way it flies, the sturdier wire struts, that's better for most people's first jet. This is a great second jet. This is the best first F-16 there is out there, period. So if you've never flown an F-16 before and you've flown jets, no problem. This is the best F-16 that you can get. It's going to be the easiest to fly, one of the best flying, one of the best performance overall. I think bang for the buck, size, performance, everything, this is the best F-16 you can get right now. But that said, again, it's not for entry-level pilots. It's not necessarily a first EDF. I would say some guys, if you're a very skilled aircraft pilot and RC pilot, and you have flown a lot of airplanes but not a lot of jets, this could be your first jet.
You've flown Warbirds and stuff like that.
Yeah, this could be your first jet. But F-16s, they're very unique in the way they handle. I love some of the things they can do, like the high alpha. And so part of their plan form and their design, it makes it a little draggier than your average airplane, and the pitch control is a little different. And so for that reason, it does take a little more getting used to. A skilled pilot, no problem. And even an unskilled pilot, you're going to catch on very quickly. Right. It's just, I, again, wouldn't recommend it. If you've only flown a couple of airplanes and you're looking for your first jet now, I wouldn't say this is the best choice. But again, I think first F-16 jet for a lot of people, or second jet for a lot of people, it's perfect.
Awesome, Bert. I think we covered pretty much everything today. If you have any questions or comments, make sure to put it on the feed or send us a message and we'll get back to you. Thanks, Jason, for stopping by, and happy landings.
Thank you.